Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. How are you doing? Today is Tracing Roots, Telling Tales Tuesdays. Genealogy with Donna. And this is episode 52. Well, I had all my notes for episode 52, and something happened this week. I am so excited. And I thank Cousin Christy for the opportunity to kind of veer off my normal beaten path that I was on. First of all, episode 52, I've been doing this since October of 2024, so pretty good. Did I do it every single week as I planned? No, but I've been doing it for 52 weeks, even if I skipped a couple of weeks here and there. Not too shabby. Consistency, pretty much. That's not bad. So, Cousin Christy has lost her father, and she is one of 4 siblings, and they're going through information and talking amongst themselves about what they know, what they don't know, documentation, pictures, all the stuff that Dad and Mom had left behind. Mom had passed away a few years earlier. And and her dad is cousins also with Mike. This is on the little side of the family. And Mike actually grew up with her father. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, so she texts me and she said, on the family tree, do you have a copy of Mom and Dad's marriage license? And I said, I'll have to look. I got into my computer, I looked on the family tree, I do not have a copy of their marriage certificate. She says, well, how can you prove they were married? She says that, one of the brothers is concerned. And I said, well, let me check it out. I said, the registrar, the marriage registrar, digitized their records, and I have it at 2 of my sources are those records. It only gives the groom and the bride, and I believe their birth dates, and excuse me, and that's the proof, because it's a government document, that's the proof that they were married. She says, well, I thought there would be a license, and I said, there might be. I said, how about, she says, if I can't find a license, then I'm going to tell my brother he's adopted. I go, oh, you are so the wicked sister. Anyway, so I said, here's the deal. I said, do they have a wedding book or a wedding album or something? They were married in May of 1960. I said, yeah, maybe it's just folded up and tucked in there. It wasn't put in with, birth certificates, passports, important papers filed kind of thing. And she said, okay. So she gets back to me, and I find out, in the meantime, I know all about her dad because it's the Littles, and I have done the Littles. I haven't really traced her mom much. So I said, your mom was born in Virginia, correct? And she said, yes. And I said, well, how does your mom in Virginia meet your dad in California? How does that work? And she said, oh, my Aunt Joan introduced them. Well, I didn't know there was an Aunt Joan. It was her mother's sister. Oh, I don't have that on the family tree. I go, okay, well, let's start again. Does your mother have brothers and sisters? And can you tell me who they are? And can you tell me in which birth order they are? Do you have birth dates? Do you have that kind of stuff? She says, well, no. Okay. Need those information. Love to know where they were born. That would be great. And then she tells me, she said, and I said, can you confirm your mother's maiden name? Because I don't have a mother and father. I just have a last name, and I don't want to say her maiden name is blunt, such and such. I want her to tell me so that it confirms that my information is correct. So she tells me, and I said, okay. I said, do you know your grandfather's first name? And she said, well, Mom didn't really talk about him. I go, okay. He died when she was 5. Oh, well, then that means her brothers and sisters are probably older than she is. Yes, that's the case. My summation was correct. So that's good. Well, then she proceeds to tell me that when Dad died, the siblings went to Illinois to an orphanage, and her mother spent the next 13 years in an orphanage, which just breaks my heart. I mean, just breaks my heart. And it's like, okay, why would you go from Virginia to Illinois? You know what? You ask one question, you get an answer. I haven't told you what that answer is yet, but you get the answer, and then it opens up 15 to 25 more questions. And she kind of laughed. She goes, you seem to have more questions than I had. And I said, yeah, I said, you're now my assistant genealogist. I said, you've got to help me out here because you're the only one with the information. So here's what we found. She did find in the wedding album, she found not the marriage license, but get this, it's a receipt. You know, it's the kind you have the receipt book and you tear it out and it's stamped from the marriage registrar. It's stamped. Now, it didn't have a price on it. I would have loved to know how much it cost to get a marriage license back in 1960. But nonetheless, we've got a copy of that receipt. That is plus. That is, in a genealogist's life, that is, oh my God. Then in the wedding book, which is not any different than a baby book, but I don't think people do baby books anymore either. Anyway, it was all filled out. Who the bride and groom were, who their attendants were, the witnesses, and one of the witnesses was Mike's dad, so that's cool. And Christy's dad's older sister was the other witness, where they were married and who the officiant was. So that, I mean, yeah, you could get an official document. We have the receipt, but having the information is important. So we got that, and that's cool. And she discovered a picture of her father. He hated taking pictures. If you've got a picture of her father at any age, that's a big deal because he would literally turn his back when somebody was taking pictures. He hated it. He's 2 years old, so this is a picture from 1941, and he's just cute as a bug's ear. I mean, just cuter than snot. Anyway, so, and that's really cool. Have the answers satisfied what the curiosity was? For that moment, yes. However, I have all these other questions. And I don't know that Christy is going to be able to fill them all in. She does have cousins on her mother's side that I said, well, get their information. Let's put them in on the tree too. I mean, your tree consists of your mother and your father. So all the information on your mother, all the information on your father needs to be put in as best as possible for a legacy down the road. So she is investigating and will let me know. In the meantime, this morning, I'm thinking about how I'm going to, present this in my live today. And I decided, well, let's, and her dad's dad's father was one of 5. If I tell you, I will tell you that when I first started attending the little reunions, there was minimum 125 people that were in the area, family members. They when they came to California, they settled in the Temple City, Alhambra area, and they all, it's a support group. They were large enough in the 50s and 60s. They had their own bowling league, their own bowling league. So that's a big deal. Not just a team, but a whole league that took up it was Tuesday nights or something. Another question I have for you, and ask around. So one of the families played golf. Mike's dad played golf, so they would golf together. They also bowled together. Bowling was really big in the 50s and 60s, and they bowled. They also had a family member that actually grew up behind the bowling alley because her dad was the maintenance guy, caregiver, and their grandma was the cook in the kitchen. So there was a lot of connection to the bowling, history in that area. What did your family do? Did it do anything? Did it go fishing? Were they fishermen? Were they skiers? Were they bowlers? What were the sports back then? If you're in the East, maybe they all played hockey together. I know when my dad was a young boy, he played hockey. In fact, he had a scar, pretty substantial one, over his eyebrow where a skate had cut him. He liked hockey, but coming to California, there wasn't any ice, not in Whittier. Anyway, so think about or find out or start asking questions about what your family did as a family. If they were large. If they're small, they probably don't do those kinds of things. Or if they're farmers, they may not have an opportunity working 12, 15, 16 hours a day to do much of anything except maybe sit on their butt and have a dinner and go to bed early because they've got to get up and do it again the next day. Let's see here. What else? Anyway, so of Chrissy's dad and his father, I started looking into them, and I'm now on I'm still on the father of Christy's father. So it would be her grandfather. Each family member has a story, and some stories are messy. Some stories are very straightforward. Some stories make you laugh. Some make you just shake your head. Like, oh my God, how did that happen? But there is no family, I believe, that doesn't have something to share. So in that endeavor, I will be spending the next couple of weeks trying to track down things that, and Ancestry has gotten so much better, that they have the little green leaves. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're called hints. So when somebody's name has a green leaf by it, that means there is some kind of documentation with that name attached to it. Now, interestingly enough, there were a lot of Donna Littles. I was not born Donna Little. That was a hint to me. Well, probably 15 of them weren't me because I was only Donna Little from 2003 when I married Mike. So not all your hints are valid hints for you or for the person you're researching. So that you need to keep that in mind. And you need to you can't just accept them as, oh yeah, that must fit. You have to investigate and research to see if they do fit, and then you can accept them. That's how that works. Anyway, I hope I've given you a good story for today. This was not what I intended, but thank you, Christy, for giving me the mystery of and being able to answer. Actually, you answered your own mystery. I just told you where to look. And we'll continue on in this endeavor as you give me more answers. I will be able to fill in more blanks. That questionnaire thing has blanks on it. You ask the question, then you've got to fill in the answers. So we're filling in the answers little by little. But again, it's a slow process because you have to go ask people or go search for. So I'll keep you apprised of how the journey is going. In the meantime, you have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.